get to be any little thing that we want to be. No matter what comes our way, we'll be together, together.
Welcome to Homeschooling Down South. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Kat. We're two Southern homeschooling mamas sharing real talk, resources, and inspiration for life and learning in the Southeast.
Each week, we'll chat with inspiring voices in the homeschool community, highlight must-see nature spots and field trip gems, and share resources from across the region.
Whether you're new to homeschooling or a seasoned pro, pull up a chair and join us as we celebrate the joy, freedom, and community of homeschooling down south.
We'll laugh together, we'll learn together, find the joys in life together, give each other grace and space to be.
Hey, y'all. We know that a lot of you listen with your kiddos, and if that is you, right now, pause this real quick and come back when you're by yourself.
Okay, great. Now that we have you alone, at about the 7-minute and 8-second mark of this episode, our guest shares her story of becoming pregnant unexpectedly at a young age and the choices her family asked her to consider.
We here at Homeschooling Down South are big believers that it is every parent's right to choose when and where they talk to their kids about sensitive topics. And so we just want to be respectful to all of you and acknowledge that this may not be a topic you're ready to discuss yet.
So just keep that in mind and maybe give this a listen on your own first before deciding if you want to allow your kiddo to listen with you. And we really hope you enjoy today's episode.
Welcome back to Homeschooling Down South. We met this crew at the Southeast Homeschool Expo, and we have the team from Northwinds Institute here. It's Laura Islas and her daughters, Alexandra and Olivia. Welcome, y'all.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
We're so
Of course,
excited.
thank you for being here.
So we want to get into all the details because, listener, I'm really excited for you to hear the information from Northwinds Institute, but selfishly, I can't wait to hear about all of the information because I would really like to participate in what y'all offer. But before we get into all of what Northwinds Institute does, Laura, can you tell us about your journey into homeschooling?
Well, a long, long time ago, way back when homeschooling was strange and rogue and very few people heard of it, I had my oldest daughter here. And she was very shy. She was very sweet and cute. And, she was getting older. And I started getting questions like, oh, when are you going to start preschool? What school is she going to? And I was really nervous. The bus stop was in front of our house. And it had the elementary kids, kindergarten up with, well, depending on what part of the country you're from, junior high or middle school, all on the bus. There were fights.
Wow.
There was people getting beat up, everything. And I thought, wow, they're going to eat her alive. She's sweet. She's quiet. They're just going to eat her up. This is so dangerous. I can't put her on that bus. So I went and started asking at church, is anybody know anything else, any other, options? I asked the pastor, the private school options in the area. And we were living in rural Michigan at the time, outside of the Detroit area. And he said, well, go talk to this one lady. She's a teacher at the local private school. So I went to talk to her, and she said, yes, I am a teacher at the private school. But she said, you don't want to put your daughter there. And I said, I don't. She goes, well, that's where all the kids that get kicked out of public school go. So it's a whole lot worse. And I said, what? And she said, yes. She goes, that's why I'm going to quit teaching and I'm going to homeschool. And I said, what's homeschool? Because I had never heard of it. Nobody I knew had ever heard of it. She said, well, why don't you just come to a convention and you can see what it's all about? And so that was my very first convention. It was the Inch Convention in Michigan. They had someone named Little Bear Wheeler. This is way back in the old days, that was doing a presentation. It was very formal. There were no children. Everybody was very well dressed, and it was very serious because at that time it was illegal to homeschool, and people only
Wow.
homeschooled if they as convicted by the Lord to raise your children in the way they should go. So it was a serious decision that people didn't take lightly, and it was taken seriously within the convention. The size of the convention hall was shockingly small, about the size of a little gym, with only a few companies that would sell to homeschoolers. Now, of course, we had Becca and Bob Jones. were there, and a few other companies that were around. And so that was my first experience was at this convention. So I thought, well, I'll try it for a year and pray about it and see how it goes. And so every year from that point on, I pray and say, well, Lord, is this what's best for my child? And take it from year to year. And I continued on all the way through from that point all the way through high school graduation. So I did come back and ask family, what did they think about homeschool? I'm going to homeschool. And, I heard a lot. I heard, "Are you crazy? She's already shy. She's never gonna learn to talk. She is going to, not learn how to read. She'll never graduate from high school. She won't be able to get into college," on and on and on and on. So it's quite fascinating. A compulsory age for education in Michigan was 6 years old. When she was 6 years old, the Michigan law changed. I got to participate in locking up the phone lines, for a week. Back in the old days, we didn't have the internet. We made phone calls and wrote letters and that kind of a thing. And Michigan went from being one of the most difficult states to homeschool in to being completely open. But the seriousness never left me. I still was a member of Homeschool Legal Defense the entire time I homeschooled. They sent you a stop sign you put on next to your door. So if social services came because your neighbors didn't like you and made an anonymous phone call, you could lose custody of your children just for having dirty dishes in your sink. So we had like a stop, how to respond. I learned how to keep good records and keep them simple, and make sure to have an answer for why you choose what you choose. God says we need to be ready for it with an answer. So we developed really good answers over the years. So that's the beginning of my homeschool journey. And I will say I was a single mom. So also kind of crazy.
Is wild that I mean, I'm so impressed by your bravery. I was just sitting here thinking, man, your generation of homeschool moms were like the warriors out here paving the way for the rest of us. And I'm just so grateful. I mean, what an inspiration. Did you ever come up against any opposition other than just, your family saying you're crazy for doing this? Did you ever have any kind of scary instances?
Was homeschooling scary?
Like, having somebody from a legal standpoint come up and question, hey, what are you doing?
I don't know. I don't remember anything, not legally.
It was mostly just culturally, I think family, and I mean, I was a baby at that time,
Yeah.
but I've heard the stories of just, they thought I would never make it and we'd be living out of garbage cans.
I was a single parent because I ended up getting pregnant when I was 20. And there was a lot of family discussion that I should have an abortion. And the pressure was pretty heavy to the point where when I decided I couldn't do it because I knew it was a baby, I was kicked out of my house. I dropped out of college. Had a friend who was a Christian who had just got married. She'd been married like for a week. Said, "You could come live with us for a while." And she read the Bible to me. She said, "You're going to be fine." So we went through a lot already. I'd already been homeless. I already had everybody thought I was going to be crazy. Heard everybody saying, "You're never going to make it. You're going to be on welfare, eating out a garbage can." You name it, I heard it. And so I said, well, I think I'm just going to go ahead and fight against that. So the Lord got a hold of me. I became a Christian, changed my whole family line. I was brought up without God in my life. From after that, my parents became Christian. My brother and his family are all saved. They homeschooled their kids. So God changed our family line with a baby, which was a
Love
beautiful thing.
that. Beautiful.
But I had gone through enough to where having somebody say you can't homeschool's like, yeah, okay, you also told me I couldn't survive for a month with the child, and here, look at me. So they also told me I couldn't make so many things, and I bought a house, and they told me a whole bunch of things, but God had a different plan. So we can choose faith or fear. We always have that choice. And even when fear creeps in, we have to always pause and say, do I want to accept that? Because that's where we take those thoughts captive. Do we want to accept that, or do we want to just go ahead and press on to that faith thing? Faith requires belief without anything looking rational around us. That's faith, right? It's like we hear it, but living it is not necessarily always comfortable, but it
Yeah.
is where God calls us to be. So we can either learn how to surf or we can get beat up by the surfboard. That is the reality. But we're all of us are going to be out on a surfboard in the water, all of us.
Yeah.
So why not make fun? Why not have fun with it? Which is where that's kind of what we're about. Why not just go and embrace the challenges of life instead of let the hardship just beat us up? See it as fun, adventure. Oh, there's near death experience. There's snakes, there's scary things. That's a homeschool problem, I'm gonna tell you right there. This one really was interested in learning about more information about reptiles. She found this amazing venomous reptile. Um,
It's like a reptile facility, I
it's
suppose.
yeah, it's like a I don't know what you call it, but anyway, it's just like immersive place. It's this tiny little place that like nobody ever really heard of before. And so we're like, let's do a field trip there because this looks really exciting. Okay, this is last year, by the way. This isn't like 20 years ago. This
No.
is last year.
Goodness.
So this is great. We're going to learn about how they milk venomous snakes to create, the
Antivenom.
anti venom and other medication. And it was beautiful because all of us have these fears, and we saw we have a lot of kids that participate that have unique abilities. And especially since COVID and everybody's got a little bit of PTSD going, and seeing the kids just be able to be relaxed, and they had snakes they were passing around, and at first they were afraid, but then they saw that they were sweet, and then they embraced the snakes, and just seeing them overcome their fears like that, it's just a beautiful thing to see, which is what we love. This is homeschooling without fear.
Without fear. Brave
Yeah,
homeschooling. So, you taking charge to set up this field trip might be a great segue for us to talk about North Winds Institute and what y'all do, because field trips are the heart of North Winds Institute. Would that be fair to say that, like, immersive experiences maybe is what is the heart of North Winds?
absolutely. Authentic education,
So, where did the idea
authentic, immersive.
authentic? I love that. Where did the idea start?
This is the way we've this is the way we've always homeschooled. And actually, it's interesting that you say this because one of the things over the years of homeschooling and going to conventions, which I think is extremely important. We have a lot of new homeschoolers. You really need to go. I think I've only missed two the entire time I homeschooled. Okay, of what 28, 29 years of homeschooling, I only missed two conventions. They're really important because every year
Yes.
you're in a different place. And what's great
Yep.
about it is you don't have to say, okay, I've got a 5-year-old and I've got to plan high school. No, you've got to plan this year. You do 1 year at a time. Where do you need to be at? What things do you need to work on for this year? You don't need to worry about all that way down there. Why stress yourself out there? That's a whole nother place. So conventions are very important. I learned going to conventions that people that are educated as teachers have a whole lot more difficult time transitioning and homeschooling than people who don't, like me. I didn't know anything about teaching. I didn't finish college. And here I am homeschooling, breaking all the rules, and that was so much easier. And literally, ignorance is bliss because I didn't know, but what I did know is I loved my children, and I knew what was best for them. And so I knew that sitting and not moving all day long in a seat or inside a building or behind a computer would be the absolute worst possible education because I am around my own children, and being able to have that immersive hands-on opportunity is the best way to learn. I mean, Jesus even talked with parables and tried to create hands-on opportunities as he was trying to educate us through actual tangible ideas that we could understand. It is the best way to bring education to life is to be able to experience that. It also creates a whole bunch of other things that we've kind of lost in our society, like delayed gratification.
Mm.
We get everything now. Literally everything is instant. But having anticipation, like, okay, we're gonna study this and then down here. So when we got to kindergarten, somebody at my church loaned me a curriculum that was handwritten by Ann Ward, who doesn't even exist anymore. It's a little old curriculum. And we studied the pilgrims in depth and we read a book and we knew all their names. We knew everything about them. And then I said, you know what? Let's go see where they landed. And we got in the car and we just drove on out to Massachusetts, and it was the best thing we ever did. It was amazing. That really transformed my view of education. was way back then. And from that point on, we have made a point of trying to have some sort of a field trip throughout the entire homeschool years with my kids at least once a week. So we would do school Monday through Thursday, and Friday was fun day. That's we always called it field trip, fun day, fun day. We got up, cleaned up the desk, got them all ready from next week, and we're hitting the road. We're out of there. And then during the week, if things got stressful, like you're in the middle of the day, middle of the week, and nobody can pay attention, it's like, oh, let's pack up. It's teacher in service day. It's do school at the park day. We're going to get out of this space. So that is the great, amazing blessing of homeschooling is the flexibility, the
Mm.
opportunity to do things differently. So that is the heart behind North Winds is that, and also real books. So there's so much to be said for reading real books from the actual touching of the paper. Alex, you want to talk about any of this? She's actually so I come up with a lot of crazy ideas. You could already tell I'm the crazy one. She is She's the she is excellent at taking like, if I'm trying to find a book or we find a book, is being able to get it back into print and what do you say?
It's restored.
Restore. Good.
Coming out of homeschooling as a homeschool alum and being homeschooled my entire life, I can attest to just the significance and the meaning behind the type of schooling that she's discussing. It completely changed my life, my trajectory, the way I think I turned out as a human being, not just a student, giving me the foundation to feel confident, to have self efficacy, to love learning, to love real life, to be able to interact with people and experiences, and just be the person that I am. So I attest that to homeschooling and to the love and to the care that my mom gave to me from homeschooling. And it's not about all of the things that parents worry about. It's the heart of the matter and the heart that that parent imparts to their child, which is what she did for me.
I will also say less
Wow.
is more. Back in the old days, we didn't have a whole lot. Now we have so many choices. It is quite overwhelming. And so one of the classes that we taught all last year at the convention cycle with Olivia, 'cause she's my master planner. She's just really she's the eye daughter. She's make the plan, work the plan, like 100%. Uh, and so she's great at planning and you teach your kids in the way they should go. And then when they're old, they don't depart. We should start teaching them right away things like planning and organizing and getting their schedule together. And what kind of adult do we want them to be? Do we want them to be completely stressed out and worried about getting A's and worry about doing 50 different activities every week? Like, what kind of child do we want our children to grow up into being as an adult? Like, what does that trajectory look like, right? So starting with the end in mind, putting Stephen Covey here, starting with that end and then backing up and say, okay, this is the way we want to raise them and the way they should go. Here's what it looks like. And then what are the steps to get there? And a lot of it is really going back to, you know, it's the simple things. God's ways aren't man's ways. Man's ways aren't God's ways. Things are simple but hard. That's really what's ideal. Real books are very, very important. So they do so much for the brain. I believe by trade now, I did go back and get my college degree. In between a couple of my kids, I graduated. One night, my eyes were bleeding. I couldn't hardly read the computer because I'm doing it online while working. And he's like, "Come on, mom, you can do it." And he had to read the questions to me uh, and exercise physiology. So it's totally not his bag. And in any case, but I can tell you about the way that the body works. Every day is a new day and can be renewed. It's amazing. Every day is a new
Yeah.
opportunity. Every day God can restore us. Every day his mercy is new every morning and we have new opportunities. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am unique. I am precious in his sight, which is what is so wonderful about homeschooling. We can embrace the uniqueness of who we are and encourage our children. We can do that for us as parents and encourage our children to be
Yeah.
okay with being unique and being who they are and letting the body heal, letting the brain heal. Did you know it only takes 72 hours out in nature, just getting out away from all of the chaos and the stress and the tech for the brain to heal? 72 hours.
Wow.
That's it. It's pretty exciting.
That's awesome.
That's why a lot of our programs are kind of extended weekends so we can give people that opportunity to, if they want to, unplug and kind of have that mental reset.
Yeah, so I would love to hear about the programs, how many y'all have done, what are some of your favorite places, and we'd love to hear about what you have coming down the pipeline.
Do you have a favorite? Go ahead.
I guess I'll just continue on with we're gonna be hiking the first leg of the Appalachian Trail, and we'll be staying up at a little inn. So it's like an introductory to like what backpacking and mountaineering kind of feels like without fully getting yourself immersed into it. And I think it's a beautiful experience and an immense challenge to actually go climb these mountains because the trek there is not easy, but it's not impossible and it's not crazy. I don't know. It's fun. It's a really fun trip. So that's one of the things we have coming up. Fall's still open. What else is open? We're doing that one a couple of times. What are
We're
our
going
other
to
plans?
Costa Rica.
Oh yeah, we're going to Costa Rica too.
Yeah, so Olivia, so we all have learned, we've all have learned the blessing of embracing challenging experiences, doing things that cause us to try something new that's uncomfortable. And so Olivia just had her birthday and she wanted to go to a place called Tree Trek.
It's an
On
obstacle course
obstacle course in the
sky.
sky, and you're on like a harness and there's zip lines. It's this crazy thing. It used every muscle in our bodies. It was over 3 hours that we were up inside these. And you went from, there were 4 levels, and we finished all 4 levels, which was also, I was quite proud of us. But I will say, I fell in the first 5 minutes.
Wow.
I did. I know. It's my fault because I was having a little trouble paying attention to the instructions. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. I'm so excited. Let's go. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we went up to the top and I wasn't holding on. I was holding onto the rope instead of the ladder. And the rope, of course, just slipped right through my hands. And then I fell right down. Those things happen though. Those things happen in life. So what do we do? Well, we put a bit of ice on it, which is great. Bruise went away quick. And we get up and we go ahead and climb up the next ladder. And by the end, it was amazing. And I felt so much confidence that I overcame. And that's how you develop resilience. You keep challenging yourself with these new and unique opportunities in life. So everything we try and double, triple, double check. We went out to hike the Appalachian Trail. We did stay at the inn. It's lovely. It is a low tech. It's got little bunk beds. It's like summer camp, like the old days. So precious.
Everybody's so friendly. It's a wonderful
But they
experience.
make all the food for us,
Oh,
and they have bathrooms.
Ooh.
And then we went and slept outside in tents, which was the opposite, where we had bears and all kinds of scary things. But we longed for it for weeks after. We longed
Uh,
for it. And then Olivia said, there's nothing like coffee in the mountains.
Nothing compares
agreed.
to
It's
it.
nothing like the simplicity of life. And it's our hope that everybody has opportunities to have these kind of punch outs and not to be afraid, not to be afraid of these
Yeah.
things.
You know
So,
what's so incredible is your homeschool sound, your home, and by extension, your homeschool sounded so just as you were telling us about it, so responsive to what your kids needed and just so beautifully tuned to life over these like check boxes or milestones, right? And just
yes.
trusting that creation and that the Lord is going to equip and but what's beautiful is you could have said, "All right, I've graduated my kids. I'm going to stop there." But you've decided to continue and to extend these opportunities to others and to open those doors to go stay on the Appalachian Trail or to go to Costa Rica, which I don't know that I could wrap my head around planning that for myself, but the fact that North Winds Institute is vetting these experiences and then coming alongside, it's such a gift, Laura, to do this. And what a part of your story that your family is involved. Like y'all are all continuing what's been the culture of your homeschool now into this business. It's really
Well,
inspiring.
well, thank you.
Thank you.
We decided to continue. My son graduated in the middle of COVID from high school, and we were doing field trips then. Back then, at that time, these guys are kind of humanities girls here, and he is 100% STEM, completely opposite. Which is look, God loves that. Let me just throw a wrench in there and give you a STEM kid. And he's like, He's 10 years old. He's begging me for a physics program. I'm like, I don't know how to do it. He's like, well, can't you help me? I'm like, I can't help you. You're gonna have to email the guy who wrote the program.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to learn how to be a problem solver. Anyway, but during COVID, everybody became homeschooled. And I had so many people because now we're in a new land, and I had people saying things like, well, you can't learn on Zoom and you can't learn virtually and you can't do homeschool. And here we are, everybody's homeschooled and there's panic ensuing. And the people are like, how do people do this? It's terrible. I'm on a computer for 6 to 8 hours a day. I'm watching my, it's like, no, that's not homeschooling. That's not homeschooling. So I'm like, okay, well, people are still, they need some assistance. They need some guidance and they need to see this is not that hard. You're making it harder. You're trying to do school at home completely different and you're not educated in the educational ways that they do things, which is a completely different way than what your children need. It's completely needless information for homeschooling. It really is. It just kind of gets in the way and it clouds the way. So that's why we actually came back and started doing more programs and more opportunities for people to connect. Where we live, we have a lot of people moving down to Florida from all over. It's like, we're going to
Mhm.
escape. We're going down to the fun place. Yeah. And I come down here and they're like, "Oh my goodness, what do we do? Like, how do we do this?" And so there's a lot of that and a lot of new homeschoolers. And after a couple of years, they love it, but then they're also overwhelmed and discouraged. So we really enjoy passing on the encouragement and the things that have worked for us with the next generation of homeschoolers, so that they can continue on that. So that's why, like, so all of the programs that we do all have an educational format. They all have multifaceted information. They all have some sort of curriculum or learning outcomes and educational objectives. All of the things that you need, and how writing out your own course descriptions. Because if you're going to write transcript, we also have dual enrollment that we have for some of our classes. We have accredited dual enrollment classes. So Costa Rica also has biodiversity with lab. So if you've got a high schooler
Oh,
and they're like they're ready for a little bit more, they could. I mean, what I just trust me. Why wait till college and go backwards when you could get it in Florida? Our dual enrollment classes are free down here that can be paired in. We have partnered with Christian Halls, that is an organization started by homeschoolers, which is pretty cool. And their parents are missionaries to Brazil. And
wow.
their setup has been to create opportunities for the classes to be tutorial based, which is a homeschooled style, reading the book and learning to write. So, what our kids need is they need to know how to read, they need to know how to write, they need to know how to do math. Those are everything else kind of blossoms from that. If you can't read, you can't do the sciences. If you can't do math, you really are limited on, everything, purchasing contracts, all kinds of stuff. Those everything kind of segues out of those basics. And so if we simplify homeschooling and not make it so complicated and make sure that our kids are feeling comfortable with the basics, and that might take twice as long. We're not supposed to compare our kids with each other because we're not all the same.
Mhm.
They learn differently. The bones in the hand grow at different time periods. Sometimes the kids can't hold a pencil yet. So that's why they can't write well. That's okay. So one class I had, they given us, came up and gave Olivia and I some advice saying, start with the end and go backwards. So if I start with the end, so my daughter here that wasn't supposed to have any confidence or anything else. So and she is graduated from Harvard and she's in graduate program there. International relations. She was president of the International Relations Club there. She's had a lot of conversation with all kinds of people. With her, my uncle, who said she'd never make it, came back and apologized and said he was wrong. That was nice. So
I bet.
my parents try to go on any trip with us that won't kill them because they're in their 80s. So they try really hard. They're like, "Oh, we're getting our steps up to 6,000 a day, but these trips are really intense." But we love grandparents. We think grandparents are very, very important. They're very important to family. We need to have the long-term longevity and family and the wisdom of people that have lived before us are very, very important. We need to have grandparents involved in kids' lives. So Olivia also graduated from Harvard. She has a degree in business. She speaks many languages. So my son, who was begging me for the physics program, he figured it out. He figured it took him a couple years to figure out a high school physics program. We built out the little pieces. He saw it at a convention. He kept begging me to buy it for him. And from then he went off. He's at Embry-Riddle right now. He's an honor student. He's got, I don't know, 6 or 7 scholarships. Most recently, he's had 2 NASA internships. Now he is level 1 certified in rocketry. We have to help them be prepared for whatever God has for them. How do we do that?
Mhm.
Reading, writing, arithmetic. It really is all they need. We can't teach them everything they need to know. It's not possible. I can go back and I could get a PhD and I still couldn't teach them everything they need to know because you go into this field and then your kid's like, "Oh, I'm over here." It's not possible. So what's best is that we love our children. We listen to what God tells us about our children because he talks to us. He shows us who they are and we accept that and we help them to be the way that God has designed them to be. Bring them up in the way they should go. And
Mm.
then they can go off and choose whatever thing. Now, and Jacob was younger. He was not ready to read. So this was the advice given to us that you told early. He wasn't ready to read and write. He just wasn't ready. His hands weren't ready. He didn't really get started in school till he was closer to 9 or 10. And then when he did, he just took right off. But homeschooling provided that freedom for him to learn at his level. We did all hands on math, meet them where they're at and help them grow where they're at and help them to have the confidence. And once they do, then your job becomes very easy when they get older. And there is no terrible teens, and all that other stuff that you hear about it.
I love that so much of how you parent and how you homeschool, you're now able to allow other families to experience that because that immersive learning, that hands-on, and not only that, but one of the things that impressed me when I met you guys at the expo is your dedication to being together as a family. You're taking these trips, you're doing these things as a family unit. And so while, yes, it is about the kids learning, I would venture to say that the parents are probably learning as well, but also you're getting these experiences together. You're building these memories, you're strengthening those familial bonds, and I think that's such a beautiful thing.
And after chatting with y'all, I can see why the grandparents want to come. Y'all are so fun and interesting. And I mean, I'm if I wasn't interested before, I can't wait to come on a trip with y'all. I just think it would be so good for
Please
my
do.
family. We
We'd
absolutely
love to
will.
And
have you.
how would we do that? If somebody wanted to sign up for one of your trips, how would they do that? But also, what can they expect as far as how much of that trip is gonna be kind of them doing their own thing? How much of it is gonna be led by you guys? What can they expect?
So you would sign up on our website. My one homeschool grad she's amazing with the digital stuff. So she's got a great website and there's payment plans and things to, and affordable.
That's
Going way
awesome.
back. Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I remember when I was very young, mom wanted to go on a cruise and she planned 2.5 years in advance and she saved and she made payments. And I can't tell you how exciting that was, that delayed gratification of looking forward to it and preparing for it, which is what we kind of have built in with our trips. So, you prepare, you do some study, you get an idea of what you're going to see. And then when we go on the trips, everything's already planned out. So we do the work to find the local experts, people who really understand. It's not just like, oh, Costa Rica, there's, you can go sign up to all kinds of random trips to Costa Rica, but this is like a very immersive, very specific people that actually know what they're talking about. We're going into an actual village with locals you that are actually talking to us, working with us, teaching us about their foods and how they cook and how they live and that kind of a thing. So we have the local experts, the immersive. We think it's important for families to be together. This is, family separation is one of the enemy's tools. And we need to stay together as a family. Multi-generational family is very important and having that to fall back on when your kids have that confidence and security, they know that they have that to come back to, they can tackle anything. My son being a STEM kid said something very funny once when he was at school. He said it's very important to stay connected to your family of origin. Non-humanities speak completely. But he was right. It was funny that he discovered that in his sophomore year, that he needed to come home often. He needed to stay connected to his family. That was very important for his spiritual and his mental health, and to just be able to decompress all of the things happening in the world, because all of life is a mission field. We need to always have that reconnection. So being able to go have an adventure, which I love adventure. Love the word adventure. It has near death experiences, it has snakes, it has things falling on you. That is adventure, right? Indiana Jones, it all we love watching it on TV and at the movies. We never think about what that's actually like when you're actually in it, but it's really amazing. When your children have an opportunity, which I encourage all parents, give your children opportunities to have adventures. Even start small, do something new and different that they're a little nervous. Well, I don't know. I want to ice skate, but I'm kind of afraid I might fall. But that's okay. That's part of the fun. You can touch the ice. Let's go touch the ice. Let's go try ice skating. Having these opportunities for these adventures helps build resilience. And then when we get older, we don't fall apart when one little thing happens. So our trips are set up in that way where everything is all set. So we can, one, have our adventure, and two, be encouraged by learning about others' adventures. So there's a teen boy in St. Augustine that gets shipwrecked at 13 years old in the 1500s. And he lives with the locals, the local Indian tribes there for 17 years. That's a really long time to kind of be out on the road away from family, right? Well, he ends up becoming one of the most important people of that time period because he took records and wrote maps of all the areas and all the different tribes and the people he met. And he was an integral part of the history in that time period. So we can say, wow, what was that like at 13? At 13, now you're living with a whole new group of people in a different community. They don't you don't even speak their language, but being able to have that opportunity to study, to see it hands on, it's very exciting.
Is, and we will absolutely be linking to the website so
Yes.
listeners can check out the trips, the experiences, and sign up for them.
Oh, so a couple of times a year, we do some of our kind of signature trips. So she talked about the pilgrims. We go to Plymouth, Massachusetts in the fall. We do a St. Augustine trip to learn about the founding of exploration all the way through the Gilded Age. And then we do a Key West trip as well, where we study maritime history. So those are kind of some of the trips we do on a frequent basis. We have the Appalachian Trail that we have coming up, Costa Rica, and then we'll pepper in different trips as we see fit and as we find new experiences for people. Because, like she said, we love trying new things and taking risks, and we never want to stay the same. So, always kind of finding new and fun things to throw out there for families.
Amazing.
I love that. I love that spirit of adventure. So much of what you guys have already shared with us would go in the column of a win. Do you guys have a specific kind of standout win, whether it was from your personal homeschooling journey or something maybe that happened with Northwind on a trip or something that would be just a really big standout win for you guys?
Couple of a couple of situations with some kids that really just touched our hearts. One is we did a space program, and I love challenging my kids too. Told my son, "You're going to need to teach a space program." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yep, I worked it around your school schedule, so you could come home with us on spring break. You're going to teach a space program." So we went down to the Space Coast, and we did a whole program, and we did a rocket building class. We have a lot of kids that are unique abilities right now, different parts of the spectrum with autism in our area. I had one lady tell me in the hallway that she just started homeschooling because she just gave up on the school. She said that her son was reading, I think he's 13, reading at that level, but in school they would only let him read kindergarten books because he was in the special needs class. And he was so disrespected. And she was just kind of at her end. And she said, I have no idea what to do or what I'm doing. She had a baby in arms. She had several other children. And she was really worried about him because she had so many children. We said, don't you worry. We have epoxy. We don't want he said, go ahead. Go have a good time. We'll keep an eye on it. He sat for almost 6 hours. She couldn't even get him to take a break to eat and built his rocket. meticulously
Wow.
built his rocket, built an incredible rocket. And these rockets have all these different parts. They had to be sanded. There's a lot of precise building that has to happen for a rocket. I love the rocket because the attention to detail required is very high. So it's not something you just kind of piecemeal together and say, oh, there we go, and it's not a Lego kit. So it takes a lot of attention to detail. It has a lot of frustration involved, but the reward is so great when you get done. And that was very, very touching to see not only this boy, but we had several just so focused. So focused. Kids before that came in that didn't know how to tie a knot calmed down and were so excited to learn this, that they were willing to learn to tie a knot. So now we have this whole group of kids that were willing to now do things that parents might have been trying to get them to tie their shoes for like 5 years. And now they
Mhm.
want to because now they want to tie parachutes for their rockets. Parents who can't get their kids to focus on math, now they want to because they want to be able to do these high level like angles of what direction the rocket's going in so that they could get their certification and they can understand the software. They need to have a reason, and it provided a reason, and it was so encouraging to see that. And the other one is Key West. To have this guy, he's total Key West. He's got long hair, he's got an open shirt, the wind is blowing, he looks like a pirate. He's driving the tall ship. He's got big, beautiful billowy sails. We're going on a sunset cruise and we're being pirates on the ship, right? And he's letting all the kids drive the ship. He lets all the kids come up and take their turn at the wheel. And we had a boy there, a whole family that came. They went to the Rockets. They've come on several other programs, and he was always off by himself. And he was the first time he came up and talked to us. And it was just to see him come out of his shell and enjoy being around other kids. And, there's always hope. There's always hope. We
Mm.
just have to keep having faith and provide opportunities for our kids to keep trying new things and for us.
Yeah.
God's good to us as parents. Like we might not have
Yes.
had it, but we could get to do it through them, which is great. We
Yes.
get to learn all over again.
Gosh, what a blessing these excursions y'all are creating are for so many. We're so excited to celebrate those wins with you. I mean, just what a gift to those families. And like you said, to the parents too. Like we get to go out and
Get to
play
do
and
it.
learn. Yeah,
Right.
amazing. Well, where can people find information from y'all? Tell us about where you are online and on social media.
Perfect. So we can go to our website, northwindsinstitute.com, or on all social media platforms at Northwinds Institute. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, and X right now. And of course, go to our website and join our adventure club, which is our
Ooh,
community of fellow adventurers. So give us your name, your email, and your information, and we'll invite you into the club and you can stay connected with us and all the other families who love to stay adventuring and exploring
Awesome.
together.
fantastic. Love it. Kayla, where can they find you?
You can find me at scratchmadesimple_ on Instagram and at scratchmadesimple on TikTok. And Kat, where can they find you?
At Recreating Camp on Instagram and Facebook. And of course, you can find us on all the socials at Homeschooling Down South. If you know of someone who is inspiring and doing really cool programming that we should talk to, please email us at hello@homeschoolingdownsouth.com. And we will see y'all next week.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
And we'll love together, we'll learn together, explore this whole wide world together. No matter where we are, I have you, you have me, and today that's all.